corrupt Ukrainians.
Ukrainian authorities.
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Donald Trump is being impeached, and for some reason, it's all about this place, Ukraine. But how come we're more than 5,000 miles from Washington? It's a complicated story about corruption, conspiracy theories, and Russia. And it all begins with a phone call. On July the 25th last year, Ukraine's new president, Volodymyr Zelensky, spoke to Donald Trump. Mr. Zelensky wanted to discuss American military assistance, but Mr. Trump said he wanted a favor. President Trump was withholding hundreds of millions of dollars of military aid. His opponents smelled a rat. They said the president was abusing his power, using his office for personal political gain.
I solemnly and sadly open the debate on the impeachment of the President of the United States.
So what about that aid that Mr. Trump was withholding? Why is it so important for Ukraine? To figure out how we got here, you've got to go back a bit. Ukraine used to be part of the old Soviet Union. After gaining its independence in 1991, it found itself stuck between Russia and the West. Russia was weak, and the West, in the shape of NATO and the EU, was spreading rapidly east to the very borders of the former Soviet Union.
Ukraine is the battlefield between autocracy and democracy. And Ukrainian people already decided, we want to move to the West.
When Ukrainians demanded closer ties with Europe, a pro-Russian president was forced to flee the country. Russia stepped in, annexing one part of Ukraine and arming separatists in another. The two countries have basically been at war for almost 6 years.
The Russian elite has not still accepted the fact that Ukraine is an independent entity. For them, this is still a painful recognition which is ahead. And until they have not recognized that, Ukraine will always be in trouble.
More than 13,000 people have been killed in this war. Without American military aid, Ukraine would struggle to defend itself. But what about the favor? What was President Trump asking for in that phone call last July? Well, he referred to two allegations and asked Zelensky to investigate both. One, that Ukraine had somehow meddled in America's 2016 presidential election, and two, that one of Mr. Trump's main rivals in this year's election, Joe Biden, had abused his own political influence to prevent an investigation into his son's business interests in Ukraine.
They're not based on real facts. They're based on fake news, on this cocktail of fake news, misinformation. Russia was the country interfered in American elections 2016.
It's true, both theories have been debunked. Ukraine did have concerns about candidate Trump. He seemed rather keen on Russia.
Wouldn't it be nice if we actually did get along with Russia?
But there was no concerted effort to stop him being elected. And there's no evidence that Joe Biden used his influence to protect his son, or even that his son did anything wrong. But if they're not true, where do these theories actually come from? You can see why Donald Trump would want to believe them. He's never liked the idea that Russia interfered in the election that he won in 2016. And dirt on a political rival? Whoa. Well, surely everyone wants that. But these theories aren't just peddled in the US.
Слава богу, нас теперь уже никто не обвиняет, что мы вмешиваемся в выборы в Соединенных Штатах. Теперь Украину обвиняют.
Mr. Putin is, I think, main beneficiary from this situation because it makes Ukraine weaker, it makes American institutions weaker, it makes White House weaker.
We have some TV channels controlled by Viktor Medvedchuk, who is a friend of Putin. And these all TV channels translate this kind of narrative that Ukraine interfered.
Is Russia kicking sand in the eyes of American politicians while simultaneously keeping Ukraine off balance? We may never know precisely where the conspiracy theories began, but it's safe to say that Russia is happy to see them spread.
The idea that Ukraine interfered into American elections is being discussed by the legislators in Congress as truth. It's very disappointing.
Our country is something as a football playing between the big guys of American political battle. So this is exactly not in the interest of Ukraine.
Donald Trump's phone call with Volodymyr Zelensky has placed Ukraine at the center of Washington's biggest, ugliest political drama. For a vulnerable country living with war and fearful of its neighbor to the east, it's not where most Ukrainians want to be.